Hey everyone. Um, just a bit encouraged to record some different Hizuk, some words of, I guess, encouragement, strength, just given what's going on here, especially living in Israel. We get a lot of action right now. Um, and I've been digging into the words of Tanakh. Now, Tanakh is the Torah, the Chumashim, the first five books of the Bible that we always learn, and it's also Nevi'im, the prophets, and Ketuvim, the writings. So nowadays, people don't study they call it Nach, right? The Nevi'im and the Ketuvim. It's kind of like an also ran. But a lot of people have been talking about the Ketuvim, or the Nevi'im recently, because during Sukkot, we obviously had these horrendous events that happened on Simchat Torah at the very end of Sukkot. And many people are very concerned that, God forbid, this could spiral out of control and cause a much larger war, bring in people from all over the world. But there's a lot of talk about what's called the War of Gog and Magog, which is a very big, devastating war that happens near the end of time, right before Mashiach comes, before the Messiah comes. And the reason everyone's talking about it is because on Sukkot, there's a connection, there's a direct connection, in that the Haftarah, the section that we read from the Nevi'im during Shabbat Chol Moed, is about Gog Magog. And Chazal in the Talmud, in the Gemara, they actually explicitly say that the war of Gog Magog is going to start on Sukkot. So when I saw that, I said, wow, that's a really crazy connection. I didn't know that Chazal. But then I started seeing, like last week, I saw words in Yeshaya that were very, very heartening and gave me strength. And I said, you know what, I'm going to start diving back into Nach and looking at the prophets, the Nevi'im, and see what other things I can find that are kind of give me hope and courage. Because I'll be honest, it's not easy being here when you've got rockets firing on you. Thank God Jerusalem's relatively quiet, but we've still had to run to the Mamad a few times. But one of my favorites is actually Zechariah. Sefer Zecharia is a phenomenal sefer. I think it's like 12, 13 chapters, but it deals a lot with the future era, like right before Mashiach is supposed to come. And I got turned on to it because I remember watching a video for Yom Yerushalayim, the day that Jerusalem was captured in the Six-Day War, from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. And he told a story from the Gemara of Rabbi Akiva and two other rabbis walking, and they saw the Temple Mount, and they saw that it was destroyed. And the two rabbis, were looking at it with Rabbi Akiva, and they saw a fox. And the rabbis got very, very sad, and they started crying. And then Rabbi Akiva started laughing. So the rabbis look at him, they're like, Rabbi Akiva, what are you doing? Why are you laughing? You can see Har Habayit, the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, it's been destroyed. Why aren't you sad? And he said, because you're seeing the fox come out, and you remember there's a prophecy that says that one day the Beit HaMikdash will be destroyed, and there'll be foxes on Har Habayit. It's kind of symbolizing that it's going to be barren and bereft, and no one's going to be there. He said, but I know, and I remembered that because that prophecy is true, that there's another prophecy, and I think, I'd have to go back and look at this, but I think he quoted Zechariah. I apologize for not being prepared, but I think he quoted Zechariah, and he said that basically the Beit HaMikdash is going to be rebuilt and people are going to return to Jerusalem. And so the fact that I see this fox and I see that this prophecy came true, I know that the other one is going to come true, and that's why I'm laughing, because it's out of joy. And so that always stuck with me, and it made me remember Sefer Zecharia. And so I started looking through it, and I actually found one that I really love, which is at the beginning of the second chapter of Zechariah. And in it, we see the Navi, the prophet. He's discussing one of his visions. He says, "Ve'esa et enai ve'era ve'hine arba karnot." I looked up, I saw hakoranot asher zeru et Yehuda et Yisrael v'Yerushalayim. And I asked the angel that I was speaking with, I said, what are those? And he said, those are the horns that tossed Judah and Israel and Jerusalem. So this is generally not so good, right? These are the destruction of Israel. And then it says, Vayireni Hashem arba'a harashim, sorry, with a chet, not rashayim, like evil people, but harashim, meaning smiths, blacksmiths. And he says, Ve'omar ma ela be'im la'asot, what are they doing? And the angel replied, he says, ela be'im la'asot ve'omer lemor ela hakaranot asher zeru et Yehuda kefi ish lo nasa rosho ve'avu ela lahaharid otam leadut et karanot hagoyim hanosiim karen el eretz Yehuda lezorata. And he said, the angel replied that these are the horns that tossed Yehuda so that no one could raise their head. But these smiths have come to throw them into a panic now and to hew down the horns of the nations that raised a horn against the land of Yehuda. Now, what are these smiths? If you go into Masechet Sukkot, you'll see that there are actually 4 different kind of messianic figures. There's the traditional Mashiach ben David, which is what everyone thinks of when they think of the Messiah. They think of the king who will come and reestablish the kingdom of Israel. And Mashiach ben Yosef. And then there is also the the Eliyahu Navi is one of the 4, who is supposed to come back and announce the coming of the Mashiach, and also the it's a very enigmatic figure, the righteous high priest, the kind of Kohen Gadol, but it's a messianic Kohen Gadol, and I don't really know what it means, but basically they're giving us hope. They're saying, look, everything was destroyed and now it's coming back. And so let's continue on with this idea of craftsmen and smiths that are coming to Israel. It says, Ve'esa enai ve'era ve'hine ish be'ado hevel midah, or chevel midah. I looked up, I saw a figure holding a measuring line. And of course the Navi says, Ve'omer ana ata holech, like where are you going? Ve'omer alai, he said to me, Lamod et Yerushalayim, lirot kama rachaba ve'kama aracha. I'm going to measure Jerusalem to see how long and wide it will be in the future. V'hine hamalach hadover bi yotze umalach acher yotze lekirato. But the angel that I was speaking with before came forward, and another angel came with him. Ve'omer elav rutz taber el hanar halaz le'amor parazot teshev Yerushalayim merav adam ubahema betocha. And the first angel said, run to that malach and tell him, you don't need to measure it. Jerusalem is going to be peopled as a city without walls. And there'll be so that many shall be the people and the cattle that it contains. Va'ani eye la neum Hashem chomat esh saviv ulchavod eye betocha. And I myself, declares Hashem, I will be a wall of fire around it, and my glory will be inside of it. So this is beautiful, because this is like one of my favorite prophecies I've ever heard. It says that, when these messianic figures come, he's going to see an angel, and the angel's going to go measure Yerushalayim and figure out how big it needs to be, how large should the walls be. And you have to remember, in this time, it was especially in Jerusalem, but throughout human history, if you lived in a city without walls or some sort of fortification, you were wide open to attack. And I mean, actually, very sadly, a lot of like what happened just a couple weeks ago on Simchat Torah. And I don't want to repeat the horrible things that happened, because it brings me to tears every time I think about it and I say it. But you have walls, right? Because you need protection. And here he's saying Jerusalem will be a city without walls, and it'll go so far that like you can't even see the sides of the city, because so many people are going to be coming here. And he says that people will just come and come and come. I think it's actually a Rashi, where he says, let me see, 1 second. Right, Rashi says. So Rashi says, Me'ein choma kedei sheyit yishvu ba kol haba v'titgadel meyom el yom. Meaning like, you're going to have no walls because everyone who wants to live in Yerushalayim will get a chance to live there. And it's going to grow every day. And I tell you, living in Jerusalem myself, I see all the time construction. Like, I brought my stepfather over from America to visit, and he works in construction. He was shocked by the number of construction cranes he saw just in like the couple neighborhoods that I live in and work in. And that's not even the entire city. You literally today cannot, like, you could stand on the highest place in the city and you would be able to see the city to the horizon in every direction. It's huge. So this is really this prophecy coming true. I mean, it's really, really amazing. There's two other ones that I really love, and I'm going to just share them really briefly. And the first one that I really love that I found today, I'd never seen this one before, but it's really good to me, is it's also in Zechariah, Perek Bet, the second chapter, pasuk Vavtet, number 15. So it says, "V'nilvu goyim rabim el Hashem bayomahu v'hayu li la'am v'shachanti betochech v'yadaat ki Hashem tzvaod shalachani elayich." Now it says, in that day, many nations are going to attach themselves to Hashem and become Hashem's people. And God is going to dwell in their midst, and you will know that I was sent to you by the Lord of hosts. So what is it saying? What does it mean that many nations are going to attach themselves to God? So the whole debate that goes on amongst the rabbis, why were the Jewish people cast into exile? Like, what is our job in exile? Because many people don't know this, but there are many rabbis who say that when you're living outside the lands of Israel, the mitzvot that you do they don't count. They're like practice. They help you remember for when you come back. Now, that's not how people hold. People need like a sense of mission. They need a sense of purpose. And just remembering to do it so that one day when me or my children or my children's children or my many, many generations later move to Israel and they know how to do these things, that's not enough of a sense of purpose. So the Mekubalim, the mystics, and also the Hasidic masters, they teach us, I say, no, the reason the Jewish people were spread out through the world is to go find the sparks of holiness in the nations of the world and to also find Gerim. Gerim are converts, like holy converts. And you see here that in that day, many nations will attach themselves to God. And that's what it means. The people from these nations are going to convert, that the Jewish people find these holy sparks and bring them back. And I'll tell you today, you live in Jerusalem, but you live anywhere, like go to New York. You will see Jews of every type from every nation. Their parents are from everywhere. You see Jews who are black. You see Jews who are Asian. You see Jews who come from the Middle East. You see, like, I actually know someone who grew up a Muslim and actually grew up even a Palestinian, and he's Jewish. He became a Jew. You see people from Europe. You see people from Germany. Like there are people who have converted who had like Nazi histories in their background. It's really, really mind blowing. There are literally Jews from every place. I know in Seattle we had, where I'm from, we had a number of people who were Hispanic that converted. Maybe they had Jewish ancestry, maybe they didn't, but they came and they saw the truth and they wanted to attach themselves to God and to the Jewish people. So that is also something that we see happening now that never used to happen. It used to mean, especially if you lived in a Catholic or Christian country, but also in a Muslim country, if you converted to Judaism, it was death. It was a death sentence. The church would put you to death, or the I don't know who the authority would be in Islamic lands, but for sure to convert away from Islam is also a death sentence. And you were risking your life to join God's people. Nowadays, Baruch Hashem, thank God, like people are able to convert freely, and they don't have to risk their life. But the rabbis still tell you when you join, they say you're joining a people that have been persecuted throughout history. And but people still come. They still want to attach themselves to God's people and to Hashem himself. And so that's another one that I really, really love. So I'm going to finish up with one more because this is getting a little long now. But if we go a little bit further in Zechariah, I apologize again for not being prepared. But we see that he's talking again about the future of Jerusalem. And he's talking about like what it will be like to live here. Let's see, one second. They talk about the exiles, and then I think it's in the 8th chapter. There it is. Right. Okay. So this is my favorite. So it's Perek Chet, pasuk Gimel. So it's the 8th chapter, the third verse through the 5th verse. It says, Ko Amar Hashem, Shifti El Zion v'shachanti betoch Yerushalayim. I'm going to return to Zion. I'm going to dwell in Jerusalem. V'nikra Yerushalayim Ir HaEmet, and Jerusalem will be called a city of truth. V'har Hashem Tzvaot Har HaKodesh, and the mount of God of hosts will be the holy mount, meaning Har Bayit. It says, Ko Amar Hashem Tzvaot Ad Yeshvu Zakanim Uzakanot Birchovot Yerushalayim. And the God of hosts says, there will be elderly men and women sitting in the squares of Yerushalayim. V'ish mishanto beyado merov yomim. And they're going to hold staffs, or like walking sticks, in their hands because of how old they are. And then this is the best part that I love. And it says, Urchovot ha'ir yamalu yaladim yaladot mesachakim berechovotea. And the squares of the city, or the roads of the city, are going to be crowded with boys and girls playing. And I can tell you right now, living in Yerushalayim, I see a lot of old people hanging out in Yerushalayim, Baruch Hashem, and I see a lot of little kids running around. I was struck, especially coming from the West Coast. Over there, they have a problem. There's no kids. No one has children. Maybe they have one per family. And the schools are shutting down because they have more school space than they need. And there's no parks anywhere with play sets for children. And there are restaurants that don't allow kids in because people don't want to deal with difficulties of kids. And I'll tell you, here in Yerushalayim, Baruch Hashem, there's so many children. You notice it right away. There's children everywhere. There's parks everywhere that accommodate them. And the people are so welcoming. Like, I remember one time coming here, and before we lived here, and we came to a restaurant, and we sat down, and we had 3 children with us in a big stroller. And it was a very cramped restaurant because Jerusalem, people don't have a lot of space. And we sat down, and we were very worried that there was a table of ladies next to us, older ladies, and we were afraid that like the stroller was going to frustrate them because we were trying to get it back so that we could store it, and the kids were making noise and everything. And the ladies, instead of being annoyed, they said, "Oh my goodness, what gorgeous children you have! They're so beautiful, and here, let us help you with the stroller." And they loved seeing kids. I mean, you see it all the time walking through the city. You have children walking with you. Everyone, this is a blessing and a curse of living in Israel. Everyone feels the need to comment on your children. Thank God they always say good things. But, they'll tell you, "Oh, what a cutie. How sweet. How nice. What's your name?" Like, it's beautiful. But it's literally a prophecy that you'll see. And so to me, it's amazing because, we don't have Mashiach yet. We don't know how this war is going to go. Could it be Gog and Magog in the final war? Maybe, who knows? We won't know until afterwards, and then we'll be able to look back and say, "Oh, well, it was obvious," right? One way or the other. But I can tell you that things are moving in the right direction. And you see that there are old people walking through Jerusalem. You see there are people from every country in the world converting and becoming part of the Jewish people. You see that there are children running around. You see that Jerusalem itself has expanded in size so that you can't even see from side to side, and that there's no walls, and anyone who wants to come and live here, they can live here. And you see it just like Rabbi Akiva. I knew those other prophecies were true, and you see these prophecies are true, and you know that eventually the other ones will come true too, where the Jewish people will return to Israel, and the Beit HaMikdash will be rebuilt, and these wars will be over, and we'll be able to have peace in our land, and we'll be a light unto the nations. And that gives me hope, even if it's very difficult and dark to get there. So my blessing to all of you, my bracha, is that you all have a very, very peaceful week, and that we quickly get through this milchama, that we get through this war very, very quickly, so that we don't have to, with the minimum of suffering and the minimum of casualties, but in a way that just elevates the Jewish people in the eyes of the world, and makes us safer and more protected in our land, and helps destroy those evildoers who are really trying to hurt us. And make no mistake about it, people don't like talking about good and evil, but Hamas is evil, and the people who support Hamas are evil. And all you have to do is look at what they did, and you'll see. But God willing, just like it says that there will be boys and girls playing in the squares, it also says that Kadosh Baruch Hu Hashem is going to destroy Hamas and is going to get rid of it. In fact, it's a joke, but you see in the parasha this week, the Torah section that we read, where literally the word for Hamas is lawlessness. And it says, in the days of Noah, Hashem saw that the world was filled with Hamas. And he said, I'm going to get rid of it. So there's many things that we can do, but the most important thing is to cry out to our Father in heaven and ask him for his protection and ask him to deal with our enemies and ask him to keep everyone safe. And you know that he will, because he promised these other things through the Navi Zechariah, and we see that some of them have already come true. Many of them have already come true in crazy ways that you can't even think about. And the people, when he wrote this, people would have thought he was crazy if it wasn't for the fact that he was a holy man and he was a prophet. Anyways, God bless everyone. God bless you all. Keep you all safe. And I hope that this gives you a bit of strength. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem and Israel.